and welcome back to part 4 of Bloodborne. This time we're going to work our way to the Healing Church, work past the Healing Church into the weird streets of Doom, as I like to call them, and then we'll head our way to Vicar Amelia, ending the first phase of the game. Because the game as a whole is split into 3 phases. The first one is sunset, the second is the night, and the third is the red moon. With huge changes happening throughout the city every time you go to the next phase. So we'll be ending the first phase in this part, which is nice. But it means the game will also get harder, and it also means like 3 different secret areas will open up at once, which is also nice. Yeah, I'm still relatively tired. That's why I didn't upload much yesterday. This is the Healing Church here. The only really redeeming thing of the Healing Church is much later on we'll get a key to get through the door right at the very top of this, because right now it's locked. The only other semi-reasonable thing for it is that you can get the Radiant Sword badge, I think it's called. I might be wrong. It's like a glowing sword badge. It looks sort of like the one you got for the Kirk hammer, just it's white and glowing. Ooh, fancy. But that one gives you Ludwig's Holy Blade, which I'll almost immediately be buying as soon as I get the chance. I'll also be showing off a new secret area, the Ancient Workshop, in this part as well. So if you're trophy hunting, you might want to follow along this part, because the Ancient Workshop, you get there's a trophy linked to it. And technically there's 2, because one of the requirements you need to access the true final boss is in the Ancient Workshop, so you technically need to get that as well. There's a lot of cool stuff in the Ancient Workshop, to be fair. Fun fact, I remember this part quite nicely. I had to re-record it so many times because, well, I had uploaded my save to cloud beforehand, so I was saved alright, but I wanted my entrance to the unseen village to be when I want it to be, not when the game wants it to be. And the game will pull you in there the moment you die to a particular enemy called the Kidnapper. And I didn't want to die to the Kidnapper. I wanted to kill it and then let myself die to it when I'm good and ready a little later in the game. The game said no several times, and so I had to re-record this several times until I killed the Kidnapper without it killing me. Right, up here's the top. That door in the back we can't open because we don't have the key yet, but this chest here, the Radiant Sword Hunter badge, that allows you to get Ludwig or Ludwig, depending on your pronunciations, Holy Blade, which as soon as I get the chance I will be equipping. Now, I couldn't be bothered to Bold Hunter Mark, so I just quickly worked my way back down the tower. I think I just jump off the edge here as well. Like, I just say fuck it and go off. Yep. To be fair, it's been interesting taking this game post-commentary. Like, because I've never really committed to a game post-commentary. I've always done it live, and post is just if there's mistakes in the recording. So this has really been an interesting point. Oh yeah, if you want to get to the Secret Workshop, that's probably not the way the game wants you to do it, but that's always how I've done it. Just roll about there-ish and then just work your way down, and then there'll be a huge door here. And this huge door will take you to the abandoned workshop, which is a cool secret area, because it's literally the Hunter's Dream, but just the original version of it before German and Lawrence made the Hunter's Dream variant. In here you can find the Dole armor, which only has one good use, and that's for selling it, because it sells for ridiculously good blood echoes at this point in the game. You get the Old Hunter's Bone, that will allow you to dodge quicker if you use it. The third umbilical cord, which you need 3 of those to get access to the true final boss, and the small hair ointment, I think, hair loop, whatever it's called. It's a comb, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, if you see, look how much you can sell this for. It's ridiculously good for this point in the game. Thanks, motorbike. The comb, if you give that to the doll, she will give you a tear blood droplet, which, if you equip that to your gun, you'll start regenerating health when you have it. But now I've got my Ludwig's Holy Blade, and I'll be using this for the rest of the game, so get used to seeing this beast. I swing it around a little bit just to say, like, hey! Oh, I don't bother talking to her straight away. I think I'm going to try and put some upgrades in this thing first. It's already stronger than the Sword Cleaver. At +2, it was already stronger than the Sword Cleaver, and the Sword Cleaver was at +3 before I got rid of it. I think I also try and take some gems on it. I take the ones I had on the cleaver off and put it on the blade. What do I go for? I just go straight up damage. The health regeneration thing I'm not too fast up, I just go with straight up damage a lot of the time.
Welcome. What is
Ornament, there we go, not ointment. Thanks my ability to read. She gets really happy and she cries and gives you a tear stone. If you break the tear stone, then you'll get your blood gem, and it gives you +2 health regeneration if you put it on your gun. Well, you could probably get a way to put it on your sword as well if you use certain different weapons, but since I usually go with Ludwig's Holy Blade, it's just it's just there to put it on your gun. Which I think I break it now to get the blood gem. So it's regenerating health. I don't think I actually equip it. +2 to recover health. I don't think I actually equip it, but it's there if you want it. Back in the abandoned workshop, I just teleported here because it was easier to follow off. So I thought, oh, let's reset here instead of resetting back at the cathedral ward, because then from here I can show you an easy way of dropping down to the bottom. It's turn left and follow this little path, and then roll left here, and there you go, you're there. The fool can't kill you at that point when you reach this point. And let's test this baby out. The Ludwig's Holy Blade, I love this sword. It's a bit overpowered in my opinion, but it's not too overpowered for me to warrant not using it. Because I don't like being too powerful in this game, but I don't think you could ever be too powerful in Bloodborne, so I just sort of take it on the chin and use it because I enjoy the weapon, and I enjoy being able to have the quick, shorter strikes, or a slow, broad, powerful strike, without it being as slow as the Kirk Hammer. That's the only drawback I have with the Kirk Hammer. The Kirk Hammer is an equally great weapon, it's just a lot slower. It hits harder, but it's just so much slower. Right, this is like the Streets of Doom, as I always like to refer to them. And just because the kidnapper is here, and this is the earliest I can think of that you can fight a kidnapper, and well, I'm just going to put it straight to you. You are never ready to fight a kidnapper in this game. There he is over there. Look at how much health he took off in one hit. Jesus Christ, I hate these guys at this point in the game. He also has magic that can stun you and hold you in place to bat you about more. All I can recommend doing dealing with kidnappers is try to parry them or outpower them. If you can kill them in 2 hits, then hit them once, wait for them to go into anger mode like this, and hit them again. But only if you can get away with killing them in 2 hits. If it's 3 hits or higher, you have to time it and have to be careful with them, because they can just wipe the floor with you. Like, it's too terrifyingly quick. But the fact, yeah, that took me about 6 attempts though to actually kill the kidnapper. I think like that fight against the kidnapper is one of the hardest encounters in the game for me, just because of how early I go here. Because you don't have to go here. If you buy the Radiant Gate Key thing, you can completely skip this section and go straight to Vicar Amelia. You don't even have to deal with the Blood-Starved Beast. But I just chose not to because, as stated before, I want to deal with all the bosses, so it's just easier to go this path. This enemy at this point in the game is also quite threatening. If he grabs you, the attack he'll do on you will more likely than not kill you, because you just won't have the health to survive it. He also dropped a Shaman Bone Blade, which is only helpful for one incident in the entire game, and that's in one of the DLC. There's this one section where there's these 2 humongous enemies that are so brutally devastating on their own that having 2 of them is a near impossible task. But they're really susceptible to the Bone Blade, so I just throw them at one of them, sit back and wait for them to kill each other. Open up this shortcut here, this shortcut takes you back to the Cathedral Ward quite nicely, so that's a plus. There are other ways of reaching here, this is just the way I always take. Numbing Mist, that's only really good for PvP, because you can throw it at someone you meet online and they can no longer heal. Which in all the PvP matches I've ever done, neither of us have thrown it at each other, neither of us are dicks. We've just fought each other out. I quite enjoy the PvP in Bloodborne. It's nowhere near as good as Dark Souls' PvP, because Dark Souls' PvP I feel is more balanced, but it's still more fun. So that's not the only problem we really have with Bloodborne's PvP, is that it feels like if you're the host of the world, you have the advantage. Because if you're an invader, you get a huge health penalty, and I don't know why they do that for invasions. like when you're doing cooperative, they lower your health to try and balance it out because more times than not you're over leveled. But still, outside of that, if you're invading, you should be able to invade everything you've got, not what the game says. I think I'll just buy more shit here. Yeah, I'll buy a fire paper because I went through so many of the Bloodstarved Beasts, and I think I'll buy some bullets. Yeah, that was it. The Chief Hunter emblem that I just scrolled past, not the Radiant Hunter emblem. I get the names of the titles mixed up a lot in this game. There's a lot of items. Yeah, the Hunter Chief emblem, the Chief Hunter thing that I briefly scrolled over. That's, you can open a gate that I mentioned last time that allows you to skip the Bloodstarved Beast and go straight to Vicar Amelia, so you don't have to go into the Streets of Doom. Do I equip the Blood Gem here? Oh no, I do. Oh no, I don't. Oh, I think I was considering it, but eventually just said screw it, and I was stuck with what I had. You can buy like the grey and the Gascoigne set if you want to from here. Oh, I buy a lot of fire paper. I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to burn through all my insight, because early on in the game I don't like to have that much insight. After a certain boss fight, then I don't care. It's just in this earlier part of the game I prefer to have lower insight. There's a secret in the lift here, and the reason why I didn't get this on my first run up is because I actually completely forgot about it, and it was only when I remembered it when I was in the Hunter stream. I was like, oh quickly, I'll go back and record it. You get some nice loot up here. The Formless Erden, or how do you pronounce that? Is it Odin or Erden? I pronounce it Erden. It allows you to hold 4 more bullets, so you can go around with 24 bullets, which is nice, but yeah, I'm alright with what I've got. And the Messenger Urn thing, I think it's just an extra costume you can put on the messengers, because you can find alternate costume. Yeah, it's an accessory adhered by the messengers. Like, you can get top hats for them, you can make them bleed, you can put pots on their heads. You can really pull any seriousness from them out of them if you start messing with the accessories. Ow. That's the other thing, this guy's not here when we go into phase 2, when it goes into night time. One of the kidnappers is here instead. Which, that's terrifying to me, that they just put a kidnapper so close to you when you goes into night. Like, later on in the game, they're no threat, it's just that they're the biggest early game threat. Like, later on we'll have, like, the pricks, the boulder throwing pricks from the Nightmare Frontier, and the Winter Lanterns and Nightmare of Mensis to deal with, but until then, this is, the kidnappers are the only real threat in terms of normal enemies. Like, a few others might catch you out, like the Watchmen, which, yeah, I looked up what their name was, they're not just some people that hunt the old church, they're called Watchmen. Like, this guy with the scythe, he's killed me a number of times, just because he has a lot bigger of a range than most others. That's the stairs screwing me out of the parry again. More blood vials. Both but there's 2 Watchmen there, and both of them are aware of me, so that's why I went into the broad mode. You can, if you charge up the hit for the broadsword, you can do a second You can do a second hit with it. Right, this is the second time the big guy does something he doesn't usually do. He's never followed me down these stairs. You watch him have a really good try at it. And I was really thrown off. Like, the big guy's never done this. He's never chased me all the way to the very bottom of the stairs like he did last part. And he's never tried to chase me down those stairs, but he decided to in this time around, because I was recording. Oh, we're being shot at. This area here, yeah, it has 2 big ones, but it has a lot of loot, and almost all of it is Madman's Knowledge. If you don't feel comfortable with dealing with those big guys or avoiding them, in phase 2 they'll be asleep, so you can just sneak past and get everything without alerting them. Which, that's a nice change in the game. Like, not all the enemies outright just vanish. Some of them just carry on with their normal business, and that's it, it's night time, so they go to sleep. Yeah, because not all enemies go to sleep, just those guys do. Be careful when you're fighting that crow, because there is another weird squiddy grabber guy here. Actually, I think this is the earliest encounter of a kin enemy you can have, so he's weak to electricity if you have any electric based stuff. more twin shards. We can start upgrading our weapons to +4, so we started to get. Like, I was like, if the twin shards you can put up to level 6, which is pretty powerful for this point in the game. You can grind out some twin shards. Like later on, like when we reach the end of the game and we're sitting on +10, you'll feel like a god for like about 5 minutes before Gurman teaches you how puny you are in comparison to him. I think I stopped there to reset the recording. So I do that a lot because the record, like, you can still only record 15 minutes at a time. So if I lose track of time when I'm doing a part, I will pause the recording like I think I did there, and then just continue it on afterwards, just so then I can make sure I don't go over time. So if you go over time and start wasting minutes doing nothing, like, and then none of it recorded, that's horrible. So you just feel like you've just wasted your time. That nearly happened back in Devil May Cry 4. Before I started using like editing software, so I was just putting them together in one video, so I was having to practically speed run the missions to do them under 15 minutes. And like on one of the missions it was like 14 minutes 51 at the end of the recording. Those big like half beast hunter guys, they can be quite threatening, as you saw there, which is why I didn't mind going off the edge, just because then I could get a bit of space from them without them killing me. I don't bother going back down, because there's a little street alley there, but I don't bother going back down there yet, because the only thing down there is an NPC who, if you convince her to go to the chapel, can give you a blood vial that heals about as much health as the normal blood vials, but it gives you regenerating health, and a good amount of regenerating health as well. It's like +20, which is really good. And the other thing down there is an empty window that could give you a tonsil stone, because there's 4 different locations in the game, and every time you start a new run, one of them is chosen at random to be a spawn point for the tonsil stone, and that's one of the possible spawn points for it. So I don't bother going down there until after we enter the second phase, because that's when the tonsil stones spawn in. Unfortunately, I don't get the tonsil stone spawn point I want, because there's 2 in Yharnam, there's 1 in Henrik Chernal Lane, which we'll be heading to next part, and there's 1 in the Forbidden Woods. And the one in the Forbidden Woods is along the main quest line, like along the main plot line heading towards the end of Phase 2. So I didn't want it to be there, because I didn't want to go through the Forbidden Woods. I wanted to get like the whole of Forbidden Woods like done in the 2 parts it's going to be, like back to back, not have a part to go through the first half, a break to do Nightmare Frontier through the Tonsil Stone, and then the second part. Because Forbidden Woods I was always planning on doing 2 parts anyway, but now it's kind of a weird awkward shift from it to the Nightmare Frontier. But the benefits of it is that I'm a higher level for the Nightmare Frontier, which is very helpful, because that's a really hard area for how early you can get to it. Anyway, this is Vicar Amelia. The only real recommendation I can give to you is pretty much the same as the Cleric Beast. If you stick very close to her, she actually will hit you, and she does have a lot more close quarter attacks than the Cleric Beast. But she will struggle if you start circling around her whilst keeping close. And you can spot which side to go around just by the look of how her arms are, because she's got one arm close to her, very protective of that gem she's holding, and the other more open to attack. So you just hit and turn towards the more pulled in arm, the one that's protecting the gem, because she's less likely to attack with that, and when she does, it does less damage because it's more of a push than an actual attack. So if you stick to her and sort of drift to the right, which I heavily doubt I do, but hey ho, then you should be fine. And she's also, being a beast, weak to fire, so you make the most of that. You see, her right arm is much more aggressive. Her left arm, that's like it slams to the fucking ground, is a lot less aggressive. Like, she'll do more pushes and try and swave you away, whilst the left arm will actually try and carve you up. Which is why I say stick to her right. If you can get behind her, even better, because she will struggle to do anything for a while behind her. Also, that's her grab. If you see that, immediately move out the way, because her grab hurts a lot more than the Cleric Beast, and at my health it probably would have put me down. You can damage her arms. Her arms have armor on them, but you can break that armor, which is what you saw me there, which is why that weird little blood effect came off her arms. That was me breaking through her armor. That's the only real strategy for this boss, is to stay aggressive on her and stick to her right, because she's less aggressive with it, and get the viscerals in when you can. It's a very simple boss for the boss that's ending the first phase of the game. You'd think there'd be more for ending such a big thing. Like, the first phase and the second phase is like end boss. Both of them are disappointing, really. But the first one, just because I expected there to be more, especially after Father Gascoigne. Father Gascoigne was a great fight. And the second one, just because Rom is such a shit fight. I really don't like the fight with Rom. I think it's a really poor fight. And that's the one that ends phase 2, for Christ's sake. But I'll get to Rom when we get to Rom, like, my problems with Rom. Like, because it would have been a lot better fight if it wasn't for one thing. So we'll get to that when we get to it. This is Vicar Amelia. She is a good fight. Don't get me wrong, she is a fun fight. She's just not what I was hoping for after Gascoigne. Especially because this is ending the first phase of the game. I was expecting something much bigger. And she doesn't really have a second phase per se. It's just the closer she gets to death, the faster she starts to get. So she might catch you out nearer to the end of her health bar. But there you go, I defeated her in one. And I get 15,000 blood echoes for my trouble and the gold pendant. Right, as soon as you activate this skull, you'll see a conversation between Master Willem and Lawrence, and this is ending the first phase. As soon as this cutscene ends, if you go back outside, it will be night time now, and the moon will be out.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Simply put, Lawrence and Willem had two very different ideals back in the early days of like Yharnam's discovery of insight and blood echoes. Master Willem believed that insight was the only way forward, and he was very much against blood echoes. Lawrence was the other way around. Lawrence was complete faith with the blood echoes and saw what it could do, and wasn't the biggest fan of insight. Lawrence then later on made the Healing Church and became the first vicar of the Healing Church, whilst Master Willem stayed at his castle at Bergenworth to continue his studies into insight, later letting him discover Rom and all Rom can do, while Lawrence pretty much set in motion a shit ton of events in the game, because he started the blood echoes, which started the Healing Church, which caused people into monsters, that started making hunters a thing, so that led to the first hunters, that led to German, and then Lawrence joined him, and then they had to make a safe haven for the hunter stream, and then after loads of hunting and hunters of hunters, and all that jazz, you fit in. So blame Lawrence if you want to blame anyone. Also, if you've got the DLC, you can now pick up the Ida Blood Drunk Hunter to start the DLC. Don't go into the Old Hunters DLC if you're following along. You are far too underleveled. You need to be about level 80 before you go into the Old Hunters DLC to even stand a remote chance. You will not survive if you take on the Old Hunters DLC now. I assure you. It is way too tough at this level. Because it expects you to have beaten the game. They give it to you as soon as Vicar Amelia's down. And I have no idea why. Because you're not ready for it. You're just not. Anyway, after that little tangent of, well, warning, if anything, I'm going to wrap up this part after I do a little bit of upgrade. Actually, I think I have enough twin blood things to... Oh no, I'm one short, unfortunately. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this part. Next time on Bloodborne, we're going to head into Hemwick Charnel Lane and take on the Witches of Hemwick, which is probably the easiest boss in the game, but it's a nice change of pace. And I also show off a quite funny way of how to break that boss. Well, I say funny, it was funny to me. Well, but anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I've stumbled along enough. You guys take care now, and I'll see you next